Hi, I'm Victor Deanda, and I'm a Gen Xer.
Hi, I'm Darian Davis, and I'm a millennial.
Join us now as we loop back in time to revisit the movies stuck inside of our heads. It's the podcast about traversing the generational divide. This is FilmLoop. Hey there, welcome to episode 3 of FilmLoop.
Welcome, everybody.
How are you feeling today, Darian?
Oh, man, this is awesome. Episode 3. We've made it this far.
Yes, and thank you all for listening to us this far. We hope you're enjoying what we're bringing to you.
Yeah, we would be nothing without you. Well, maybe something, but not as much as we are now. So
Exactly.
Thank you. Yeah, man, I'm really excited for this episode. I mean, I was waiting a long time to get to these picks. I mean, we have to contain ourselves not to share it.
Exactly. But we go 2 weeks between episodes, and we can't really talk about what we're reviewing each episode.
No, we're itching because we want to make sure that what you guys are hearing is fresh and hot off the press. So we have not previously discussed this film. It's all in the podcast, all, right there on the table. So
it's grade A fresh.
Oh, yeah. Just like my eggs, the way I like them.
All right, Darian, what have you got for me this episode?
All right, so my pick is an ensemble film of extraordinary proportions. See what I did there? Where the characters that appear here are as forgettable as the actors that play them. Most loathe it, the rest regret seeing it, and I just bask in all its glorious Victorian campiness.
Their powers are legendary. Their origins are unknown. Their methods are extreme. But when our future's at stake, they'll be the world's last hope.
And the game is on.
LXG, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
All right, man. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Whoa.
The campiest Victorian movie of the early 2000s.
Oh, I can't wait to dig into this one.
I know you're ready for it.
I am ready.
So this movie, I mean, I watched countless times with my dad. I mean, it was one of the first films I remember us sharing together. Especially because I think it was PG-13, and I was maybe 12 or 13 at the time when it came out. So it was one of those constant favorites on FX, like a cable movie. So, we would watch all the time. Captain Nemo was his favorite character.
Nice.
Just this awesome Banff type character. And it was like the perfect rainy day film. We would watch it on a nice rainy day, get ourselves, kind of cooped up in the house and nothing to do but just watch movies. So this is one I share with my dad. So, we love it for that. But, again, to the movie, it's one of those VFX heavy films that plagued the early and mid 2000s. A lot of people have issues with it.
Yeah, I have a lot of issues with it. But Captain Nemo was a badass. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So this movie was released in July of 2003. So, I mean, it was a summer film.
Right.
It was directed by Stephen Norrington, who did the creature effects previously on Alien 2 and 3.
Wow, I didn't know that. And he did Blade, too,
yeah,
right?
man. He also directed Blade.
Like Blade a lot.
Yeah, it was a great film. Unfortunately, this film did not really turn out well for him. We'll get into that later. But obviously, if for those that don't know, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is based off of a comic book by Alan Moore.
And Kevin O'Neill.
Yes.
I prefer to use the term graphic novel.
Yes.
Because that's what it was.
It was a graphic novel, and I should be ashamed of myself that I did not say that first, but we won't go there. And some might know, Alan Moore, who also wrote Watchmen.
From Hell. I mean, I was a huge fan of the graphic novel, so you can imagine my disappointment. I had a lot of expectations for this film.
Yeah, which is interesting because I didn't know it was a graphic novel until years later.
Really?
Yeah, I still haven't read it, so you're going to have to loan it to me.
Oh, yeah, you've definitely got to read it.
Yeah.
It doesn't compare to the film. The film doesn't compare to it, I should say.
That's what I've heard. What I've heard. So yeah, basic synopsis. Everything takes place in an alternate Victorian age world. Basically, a group of famous contemporary, fantasy, science fiction, and adventure characters, or at least contemporary to that time.
Right.
They team up and go on a secret mission. They are recruited by this mysterious character named M, who,
Ooh, don't get me started.
Yeah. He recruits them, and basically it's like getting the band together, kind of Magnificent Seven type of
style, right?
Style, yeah.
Yeah, and they're all based on literary fictional characters that Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill created for the graphic novel.
Yeah.
They're all put together, but what I cannot understand is, of course, they're all British, right? Alan Moore is British.
Right.
Why did they put Tom Sawyer in this?
Yeah, so I mean, well, you got Sean Connery. Sean Connery plays the main, the lead in this movie, which is Alan Quartermain,
right?
Who I guess is a fictional character I've never heard of.
He is, and it's like the King Solomon's Mines. They make a reference to that in the film.
Yeah.
But he is nothing like he was in the graphic novel. In the graphic novel, Alan Quartermain was like this old, frail, thin wisp of a man.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that Sean Connery, the reason he did the movie, he kind of had some influence over the script and said, I want to be the hero in this thing. I'm not playing this like a weak old man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Sean Connery was very much the lead of this film. I mean, they paid him massive amounts of money, so much so they couldn't afford to get any other, noticeable names.
Exactly.
Really.
It was $17 million they paid him.
Yeah.
And no money was left to do the visual effects, as is evident.
Yeah, it shows up.
Right.
For those that don't know, I mean, this was Sean Connery's last film role.
So far. I think he's done some voice work since, but this is his last role on screen.
Yeah, so far.
Right.
I mean, he's not dead yet.
Correct.
He could show up.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, this was his last film role. He was actually offered to do roles in The Matrix and Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But he turned him down because he didn't understand the script. So he learned his lesson, and so read the script for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and said, you know what, I don't understand the script, but I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And it looks like he rolled the dice wrong on that one.
Wow.
But, there's some moments in here, and we'll get into that. I mean, just some of the other people in this movie. Tony Curran plays Rodney Skinner, which nothing like the graphic novel, but I feel like he's one of a fan favorite in this movie.
What else is? Oh, he's the fan favorite. I also read that they couldn't get the rights to the Invisible Man.
Right, he's Invisible Man.
Yeah, he's an Invisible Man. They even had to change the character's name.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what his name was in the graphic novel. Or I
can't remember, but it was not Skinner.
Yeah.
Who else is in this movie?
You also have Stuart Townsend as Dorian Gray.
Right. Another out of the blue, out of left field choice.
Yeah.
Dorian Gray was not in the graphic novel. I'm not sure why he's in this, other than to be like the.
He fit the Victorian.
Or to be the villain you didn't expect.
Right. Exactly. Shane West as Tom Sawyer, who, for me and my wife, we know him as I can't remember the character's name, but A Walk to Remember.
Oh, right. Him and Mandy Moore.
Yeah. Directed by Adam Shankman. So that's a perennial film for us because it's one of my wife's favorite films. But
nice. But yeah, Agent Sawyer, come on.
Yeah. It was a good work in. I didn't mind it.
Lame.
All right.
It was like, okay, hey, this movie's got all these British characters. Let's throw in an American one for the American audiences.
Oh yeah, you gotta keep your American audience with you. Or else
Tom Sawyer as a secret agent. Come on, he was whitewashing fences.
And then we have Jason Fleming as Dr. Jekyll. And Mr. Hyde.
Always a good character actor.
Yeah, it's good seeing him show up and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Richard Roxburgh, who plays the mysterious M, also known as, spoiler alert, Moriarty.
Oh, don't get me started on that one.
Did not work.
Nope. Now Moriarty is in the graphic novel, but he never pretended to be M. There was never that whole subplot of a lame subplot, I might add, of getting the group together just to. I don't know what the reason was. It's like, that's not in the graphic novel.
Yeah. The plot was all over the place, not really well explained at all.
No.
Didn't make sense. I mean, he was trying to get the group together so he could siphon, their abilities and create a super soldier to take over the world, basically.
Right. That was not in the graphic novel either.
Yeah, there's a line in the beginning where he's like, I want the world.
Exactly.
Why Zeppelins are blowing up behind him.
Right. And why does he look like Dr. Von Doom? He looks like Dr. Doom at the beginning, or a cross between Dr. Doom and a WWF wrestler.
Well, to me, he sounded like a Russian Sylvester Stallone. Like, he's like, that kind of weird.
Right, and that stupid hair.
That looked like he dunked himself in a bath or something.
Yeah.
But he also, funny enough, a couple years later, he shows up in the movie Van Helsing.
I missed that one.
Yeah, he shows up there with Mr. Wolverine himself.
Oh, with Hugh Jackman, right?
Yeah, so, they're actually, if you want a good double feature, watch Van Helsing right after League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they're both not great films, but they go together very well.
I'll do that.
So yeah, just to break into this film, I mean, one of my favorite moments is like the bar scene toward the very beginning, where you're first meeting the main character, or Sean Connery's character, Alan Quartermain.
Right.
They go into the bar, and this guy from British Parliament, or the Queen sends him to go fetch.
Yes.
Quartermain,
Mr. Quartermain. But that whole scene to me just smacked of Connery.
Yes.
He was like, you know what? I need a big intro. I need a big set piece to introduce me as a badass, because that is not how the graphic novel works. And I'm going to keep referring to the graphic novel.
I have a feeling we will. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he has like a body double at the beginning, this like drunkard slob.
Crazy, yeah.
He's like, I'm Alan Quartermain, and the guy basically, Sean Connery speaks up for himself. He's like, no, I'm actually the real Quartermain.
Right.
And then basically, you have all your exposition, spewed out by this, one note character. It's like, won't you return for the Queen? Won't you die for your country again? He's like, what has the country ever done for me?
Exactly. And of course they have to up the stakes. He says, no, I really don't want any part of this.
Right.
And then they blow up the building at the end, right? It's on fire. And he says, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah. Basically trouble comes right on cue.
Yeah.
And there's this awesome moment where he's like destroying one of the bad guys, and like he rams the dude into like this rhinoceros head.
The tusk, the horn.
It's a tusk that's on the wall.
Yeah.
He rams him in, and then like the British flag falls over him, and Sean Connery steps back and just says, "Rule Britannia," like that. It's like,
oh yeah, those Bond one-liners coming back.
Oh yeah, they were all over the place. And then he like turns around to the bar, and he's like, get me Matilda, and they throw a shotgun over across the bar.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, let's showcase his badass rifle and his marksmanship, right?
Yeah, and I mean, they had some creative shots to get his punches looking good.
Yeah,
I mean, he had some energy there, but they had to get creative.
But I think the editing, like this whole movie, the action scenes were edited Michael Bay style. It's like I couldn't tell what was going on. The shots last fewer than a second. It's like, okay, wait a second, where am I?
Yeah. Very schizophrenic. But yeah, then he goes through to the, they end up blowing up the bar, which, in the hotel where the bar is. And
the Adventurers Club.
Yes. And for Quartermain, that was enough to get him, you attacked Africa, so now I'm going to attack you back. I'm in.
What are some other highlights?
So basically, yeah, they take him on the trip. I mean, I also like the moment where they end up go to meet M, and there's a couple other people there. I think there's
Skinner. Dorian Gray's there.
Dorian Gray's there. Skinner's there. Shows
some
up.
shadowy figure following him.
Yeah, and there's a moment where they're all meeting, and obviously Connery has to have the line, "Oh, so a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen," right there.
Boo, groan. Yeah.
In the dialogue.
I mean, I saw this movie in the theater, and I hadn't seen it since then, since the other day when I rewatched it.
That's great. Yeah, man. And so they go out and Nemo and Connery. Well, before Connery gets out of the car and he's like makes this side off reference to Phineas Fogg.
Right.
And he's like, around the way, he's like, the guy comes up, he's like, you got here pretty quick. He's like, not like Phineas Fogg. Around the world in 80 days, who would have thought? It's just these one-liners of like literary occurrences in the 18th century.
That harkens back to the graphic novel, because that's what happens in the graphic novel. There's all kinds of references to other fictional characters from the time period. And I don't know if you noticed on that dock when they're waiting for the Nautilus to show up, there's an old poster on the wall with Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill's names. I'm sure they wanted to remove those, but didn't happen.
They did that on purpose because they wanted to do that. But if you notice, the poster next to it mentions a volcanic eruption on Mars.
Oh,
they were going to do a sequel.
Oh, like John Carter?
Yeah.
That was also in the graphic novel. That was the second book.
Yeah, they were going to do a sequel. That's why they put that little Easter egg in there.
Nice.
So if you pay attention when they go to the docks to get on the Nautilus, it's there. Yeah, before they get to the dock, there's a moment that I love where Nemo is standing out in front when they all get into his contraption.
Right.
And Connery is like, what is this? And Nemo's like, I call it an automobile.
Right. And what does that thing run on? Is it running on gasoline? What?
It runs on pure determination, Victor.
I see.
Yeah. Determination and old man grit.
It's not steam.
Not quite. So yeah, the Nautilus, when they get to personally, as a kid, I was like, this thing is incredible. It comes up, it rises up from the sea, this huge ship that should literally upend the dock they're standing on when it's coming out of the water. And Nemo's just like, behold the Nautilus, the sword of the sea. Like, everything he says has this grandiose appearance to it.
Of course, he's Captain Nemo, and it did look like a sword, and I thought it was badass. It's like steampunk. It's the whole movie is a steampunk.
Yes,
aesthetic to it.
Oh yeah, which is awesome. I think if anything else, the styling and the production work on this film, even the VFX, it looks great. It doesn't hold up, but for what it is, it looks pretty amazing.
I think it's kind of spotty, the CG stuff.
Yeah,
like those opening here. I think because they had multiple effects firms working on the shots, it's kind of inconsistent. Like the opening stuff with the Nautilus, it looks totally cool, and then later on when it's got a hole in the side, I'm like, wait a second, is that the same submarine? Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah. So eventually they get on the submarine. They meet up with they go to catch Hyde in Paris.
Yep.
Which is pretty great.
Yeah, rooftop chase.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Great. Connery is mentoring young Tom Sawyer there.
Right.
And there's another good moment after they catch Hyde and what's her name?
Mina Harker.
Yep. She comes onto the journey as well. She plays the lead in the graphic novel, right?
She's not really the lead. It's her. She has a leading role. It's her and Alan Quartermain.
Yeah. So, they're going out and they're all on the boat ready to do whatever thing they need to do in Venice to kind of stop this attack from happening.
Right.
And there's a moment where they're on deck and Tom Sawyer and Connery, or I call him Connery, Quartermain, the character, they're both out there and Connery's character is showing him how to shoot, basically.
Yeah.
Because apparently Alan Quartermain is a great shot at 72.
Well, it's this whole father-son thing they're trying to go for, where Quartermain lost his son on a mission.
Yeah.
And now Sawyer is kind of taking his place. He's trying to mentor him.
Yeah.
So it's a touching moment.
Talks about peppering the ace at 500 yards. Yeah.
Wait for it. Feel the bullet.
Right.
I forget what he says.
It's like wanted, curve it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's so it's like touching moment. It doesn't really. It kind of plays flat, but jumping to the end. there's a lot of stuff happening toward the end. I mean, you got full-fledged. They end up discovering that Dorian Gray was betraying them all.
Right.
And so they're going back to, basically stop him and Moriarty, from taking all of their DNA basically and creating these super soldiers. So they follow him to Siberia or Serbia or whatever.
Oh, I thought it was Antarctica.
Yeah, it was someplace with a lot of snow.
And they killed Ishmael.
Yeah.
The first mate.
Yeah, it sucks.
That was sad.
Yeah, he literally says in the beginning, called me Ishmael.
Exactly, and that's Moby Dick.
Right.
Yeah, but, of course he gets, what does he get, stabbed? I forget. And then he
gets run through, yeah.
He stays alive long enough to tell Nemo and the rest who it was.
Yeah, who betrayed them, which is Dorian, yeah.
Right. And then what's the funny thing I thought about Dorian Gray was there's a scene where he's like plucking his eyebrows.
yeah. When Hyde first comes on the ship,
exactly,
he's plucking his eyebrows, and Mina Harker is doing an impression of Connery, basically, which was a no on set, but Connery apparently gave her the blessing to do that, which was great.
And was it Hyde, I think, or Jekyll, who was kind of watching Dorian Gray and Mina?
Yeah, he had a suspicion. Yeah,
he was watching them make out.
Jekyll,
like, okay,
it was creepy. That's because Jekyll was kind of down with Mina Harker for a little bit. Yeah,
and what about Super Hyde?
Oh, dude,
that was bad.
I mean, it was bad, but dude, that last battle was brutal. I love to hate to love it.
That whole third act, I was like, okay, where is this going? It's like, come on,
it's messy.
End it now.
Right before the third act starts, you have that another moment for Connery, which this film kind of echoes him and his career, because you see this old white tiger slowly appear through the mist of snow.
Oh yeah.
And he and Nemo have this thing going where, it's like, oh, the old tiger, coming back out for one last kill or for one last game, basically to die in the field of battle.
Right. He's the most fierce at his oldest.
Right. Exactly. And basically Nemo is suspicious that, Connery doesn't want to die, that Quartermain doesn't want to die, but that he probably thinks he will on this mission. And so... and
then should we talk about the very end of the movie?
Yes. So at the very end, I mean, basically they fight to the wit's end, and Tom Sawyer's character and Alan Quartermain get together, and they've chased Moriarty to the very end. He swoops down on his cape off of the top of a building onto the snow. He's running away, and Tom Sawyer is trying to basically shoot him from 500 yards.
It's like echoing the earlier scene.
Yeah. And Connery's like, "You got this." And Connery had been injured earlier. I mean, he's probably pierced in the heart at this point. And
I can't make the shot.
Yeah, can't make the shot. And he eventually, Shane West makes his shot to kill Moriarty. And then there's a moment that I think sums up kind of Connery's career in a nutshell. It's like he's kind of passing on this generation and this generation of film of action stars. And he says, so like fourth wall breaking. He says, "May the new century be yours, son, as the old one was mine." And he, with his last breath, he dies. And that's technically his last words on film.
Right.
And it's kind of a great moment for him, because it just kind of illustrates him as one of the iconic action stars, kind of passing all of his wisdom and knowledge to the next generation.
So he's passing the torch onto the new generation. But
right.
Unfortunately, the Tom Sawyer actor didn't do much after this film.
No,
right?
Not much. But it's a general,
right.
Everybody, keep the.
And what about Moriarty at the end when he's running away? He jumps down. He's like, "Oh, I got to grab my mask." Like he can't leave the mask behind.
Nope. Well, and obviously that was setting up a sequel. The mask is going to, be uptaken by someone else. And obviously they didn't get to make a sequel. I don't think anybody wanted a sequel.
Right. I don't think the movie made a whole lot of money, right?
Yeah, they were leading into that. But, that's LXG in a nutshell.
And another thing, a quick thing I had, both Dorian Gray and Alan Quartermain jump out of the speeding car onto their feet.
Yes.
What's up with that?
It's called movie magic. It's movie physics, man. You don't need to know anything else.
And another question. How long does it take to patch up the Nautilus? Remember, there's a hole the size of a, 20-foot hole in the side of the Nautilus. There's this whole montage where Tom Sawyer is checking dials. Everyone's doing something. They're all part of the team to patch up the Nautilus. And then it ends with a scene where Quartermain's like, great work, everyone.
You got to have that coming together scene. The heroes aren't just there to fight people, but to help people. Got to have that moment.
Right. Another corny moment at the end, third act, where they're taking on Moriarty and his lair, and they all do the fist bump, put their hands together like, all right, go team. Yeah. Lame.
It's lame, but it's endearing to me, and I love to hate it, but I also hate to love it. So that's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I prefer the graphic novel.
All right, so what do you got for me, Victor?
What do I have this episode? Let me tell you. It's a tale of kings and wizards, of legends and history, and a pretty famous sword. You might recognize it.
A wizard's ancient spell.
Into the eyes of the dragon and the despair.
And the lust of a lord.
I must have her. One night with her.
Give birth to an empire.
Behold, the sword of power, Excalibur.
The future has taken root in the present. It is done.
One land, one king.
Orion Pictures presents John Boorman's Excalibur.
Knights of the Round Table, we shall always come together in a circle to hear and tell of deeds good and brave. And I will marry.
Don't you know me, Merlin? Because I'm a creature like you.
Their magic is Merlin.
Are you just a dream? To some.
A nightmare to others.
Their king is Arthur.
You are my husband.
I must be king first.
Their power is Excalibur.
I swear eternal faith to Arthur, king.
Sir Lancelot, you will be my champion.
Which is that? Greatest quality of knighthood.
True.
Where hides evil, then?
Where you never expected.
I protest my innocence.
Were I not king, I would make you pay with your life.
A world of wizards, kings, warriors, queens, swords, sorcery, and desire. Forged of splendor and magic, where future meets past, flesh meets steel, and the only fear is the pain of love. Excalibur, sword of power, sword of kings.
All right. Yes, you guessed it. It's Excalibur. Great movie, in my mind. I saw it when I was a kid. This was all part of my deal with my dad. Saw this in the theaters. If I paid for his admission to the movie, he would take me to R-rated movies. This was one of those R-rated movies. You can imagine what it was like, especially seeing that first scene. There's like a big sex scene.
Oh, yeah.
Love scene. Awkward with my dad. So, yeah, this was released in 1981. It's directed by John Boorman, who directed some other great films like Deliverance and Point Blank with Lee Marvin. Great film, I think. Sure, it's episodic. You know, it's
Very
a long,
much so, yes.
It's a long movie. I think if you don't know what it's about already, it's about the Arthurian legend, King Arthur forming the Round Table.
Yes.
His evil sister Morgana. You know, Lady Guinevere becomes his queen, Camelot, Lancelot. You've got all the knights of the Round Table. And of course, evil rears its ugly head at the end in the form of Mordred, his bastard son.
It sounds like these are both kind of movies that I guess our dads kind of play a factor in, which was not intentional, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, because like I said, I made a deal with my dad. I wanted to see. I wasn't old enough yet to see these R-rated films. I made a deal with him. I would save up my allowance. We'd go to a matinee, and he'd take me to these R-rated movies. I think he thought they were twisting my brain for sure.
Oh yeah.
This was one of the first ones we saw together. I think the first one was Alien, but we'll get to that in a future episode. So what'd you think, Darian?
I remember seeing this actually in school.
Oh, wow.
Believe it or not. I thought it was interesting. I mean, I don't remember a lot from it, but when I watched it back again, it was very painful. There was a lot of overacting.
Definitely. It's not subtle. No, by any means,
not at all. And the award for overacting goes to Merlin, played by Nicol Williamson.
Oh, I think he makes the movie.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. It's so overly done. It's wonderful, and like you want to keep watching him.
Even one sentence, he goes like from one tone to like really deep tones.
And his face changes. His eyes grow wide, and then he lulls back into this weirdness.
And also the film debut, I think, of Liam Neeson.
Wow, really?
Liam Neeson's in it. Patrick Stewart.
Yes. Yeah. Immediately recognizable. Obviously, Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren, of course, a young Helen Mirren.
Yes.
Nicol Williamson as Merlin.
Yeah.
Nigel Terry as Arthur. Sherry Lungi as Guinevere. Mm-hmm. They do okay. They're not standouts, even though they're the leads in the film.
You know what other face I recognized?
Who's that?
Clive Swift. Who, for my afternoon PBS, TV watchers, he plays the husband to Hyacinth on the British sitcom Keeping Up Appearances.
Oh, nice.
And if you were a nerd kid like me, you liked to watch Britcoms when you were 12 and decided to stay inside during summers. Anyway, that's what I recognized him from.
Nice.
So
I didn't realize that. I like that show. I've seen that a few times.
Nice. Sweet.
Used to be on PBS.
Yes.
Yeah, all the Monty Python stuff. And that leads me to my next thing. I saw this film, Excalibur, many years before I saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail. But now watching it again recently, just the other night, it totally reminds me of Holy Grail. I couldn't stop laughing.
Well, the part where he has the... I mean, this is skipping way to the end, but you see the Holy Grail floating in front of him and the blood pouring out.
Yeah.
It's almost a cue to laugh, and that's all Monty Python's fault.
Yeah. Arthur, stop groveling. I hate when people grovel. That's Holy Grail. Or like Camelot. Oh, it's only a model. I expected them to say that, but that's a different movie.
Yeah. So Orion Pictures?
Yeah. Oh, I love Orion. The logo, Orion Pictures.
Yeah,
whenever that comes on, it gives me a nice warm feeling.
What other movies are in that?
They released a lot of Woody Allen.
Okay.
In the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. I also saw Trevor Jones does the music, and he also does the music for one of my favorite films, Labyrinth, which we'll also get to.
Nice.
But the score was interesting. One of the songs I was confused about, the O Fortuna. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, was that Wagner? No, it's not Wagner.
I won't even begin to guess. I'll leave it to the listeners to point that out.
Yes.
But, yeah, I was confused by that showing up.
Oh, I think it was Carmina Burana.
Okay.
Maybe
it was. I was confused by that showing up mixed in with the score, because I thought the score by Trevor Jones was pretty great. I mean, it had a lot of familiar notes to me. But... yeah, I was confused by some of the classical music that showed up.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixture.
Yeah. But there is one scene that I love.
What's that?
Is when King Arthur comes back riding with his bros behind him.
That's
and
great.
Spring is descending and the song is just blaring in the background.
Oh, yeah. That's classic film. I think they used that in the trailer as well.
Yeah.
When it looks like someone's throwing a handful of flowers in front of the camera.
Yeah, but it's like King Arthur's coming back with a vengeance in that moment. It's great.
Gather up the knights.
Yeah.
I ride again. Yeah. And that was crazy too to me, where he takes one sip from the Holy Grail and he's ready to go. He's like, bam.
It was barely a sip.
Right.
His lips touched the Grail and he was like, I'm back. And he looked like death before.
Exactly.
You know, the land, the myth is the land is sick when he's sick, basically.
Exactly. The king and the land are one.
Yes, exactly.
And like, I don't know if you saw the Star Wars, George Lucas drew inspiration from the Arthurian legend.
Oh, yeah.
It's apparent here in this film. You can see Star Wars references.
Well, and that goes back to the whole Joseph Campbell hero's journey.
Exactly. Like, I mean, this isn't Star Wars related, but Lancelot sleeping in the nude. And then he sees himself, he fights himself, takes his helmet off, and it's him.
Yeah.
That's like shades of Empire.
Yeah.
Luke fights Darth Vader and pulls off his helmet to see himself staring back at him.
Well, even that, I mean, I feel like Excalibur, this film kind of really solidified sword and sorcery in modern filmmaking. Like, you wonder how this, I mean, I feel like this film has a strong legacy in producing what we now know as Game of Thrones today. I mean, how much has George R.R. Martin taken from this? And, in his psyche, this film has been influential, I wonder, and now we have, Game of Thrones, which is a huge success.
Right.
And is, maybe it's only popular or part of its fame is in due part to Excalibur even existing.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. And, originally Boorman was going to be directing a live-action version of Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
That fell through, and so he decided to make this film.
Yeah.
And there's even, like, this whole movie was shot in Ireland, really close to his home. And I think it's beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
The lush greenery, and of course the green light. You can't go without speaking about the green light.
Yeah.
But I think the film is beautiful. I loved it when I was a kid. I was like, I want to be a knight.
Yes.
The Knights of the Round Table were like totally badass to me.
Oh, man.
Sir Lancelot,
a
champion who could not be bested by anyone.
Yeah. I mean, he looked great. And that's the thing is, like, this film is gorgeous. And, I may, if I ever return to this film, which I may not, but if I ever do, I mean, it's such a beautiful film. Like, the opening shot just took my breath away. I mean, it's a dark shot, but you see these silhouettes against this orange light in the night, and it just like it arrests you. Like, you want to find out what's happening.
Or what about the whole Lady in the Lake stuff?
Oh yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. Just like, I love, this is again the end. Percival throws the sword.
Yeah.
The second time. That's a funny part too. Where he's like, I couldn't throw it in. Arthur's like, what? Obey me. Do as I say. And so he throws the sword in again, and like the Lady in the Lake catches the sword and does like this perfect back into the water motion.
Yeah.
Just like,
I mean, it was obviously a rewind.
Probably,
yeah. They spun the tape back.
Right.
But, and it's funny because, watching this movie, it has a lot of biblical undertones. I mean, obviously the King Arthur is a legend that stood the test of time, and whether the events actually happened or not, I feel like Boorman treats this as a biblical epic. I mean, he treats these events as things that could have happened or, might have happened, and he takes it seriously. I mean, overacting aside, the tale feels real and it feels legitimate. I'm not saying that it's not, but you believe everything that's happening, that it could have happened and it might have happened.
Yeah, I think so too. And the whole, just the whole legend, maybe it's based on fact, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
I can totally see that.
Even melding it into history.
Oh, okay.
And going back to the green light, right?
Yeah.
So you have like the green light coming up whenever like Merlin's around or like there's some mysticism happening.
Right.
And it's kind of like that power struggle between the old pagan ways and the orange light, representing Christianity and man's ways. Or, Merlin keeps saying it's the time of man now and I will soon go away.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, those competing things as well.
Oh, interesting. I didn't see that.
Yeah. Deeper notes for you, Victor.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Another part I liked about the movie was the fight scenes, the battle. I mean, I think this could be what it was really like. The armor is heavy. Guys can't move so fast.
Yeah.
They're trudging around in the mud and the water. And I think in films before this,
they skip all that.
Yeah, they just kind of danced around and did all the sword fighting. But this shows you like it's down and dirty. Like battle it's tough, especially when you're wearing a suit of armor.
Yeah. Well, and that's almost to this film's detriment, because some of the fight scenes are boring, some of them are shot too close, and they feel clunky and uneven. But like you said, it feels like it lives in real space. Like if you were watching these dudes battle out in the early 1100s or whatever time period, this is what it would look like. It probably wouldn't be that exciting, but somebody's going to die.
Right. Yeah.
So
someone's going to get an axe to the chest.
Yeah. Or a lance
spear
to the chest. Yeah.
Right.
Or a spear to the chest.
Exactly.
Something to the chest.
Yeah. So going back to Lancelot, was he the Brad Pitt of his day?
The actor or Lancelot?
Lancelot himself.
The character.
Right.
I guess so. The little girls in the cart were giggling at him.
Exactly.
He was smooth, man. When Guinevere kind of strolled up to him and was like, "Surely you have a girl that you're infatuated with," and he's like, "No, it's you." And
right.
He's like, "For as long as you live, or as long as I live, or whatever it is, I will not,
He's like, I will only love you. And she kind of eases back on the horse. She's like, oh.
It's like, okay. I see you, Lancelot. I see you.
Yeah, another funny moment I liked was when Leon de Grasse, played by Patrick Stewart, his castle is under siege.
Oh, yeah.
So Arthur shows up to help him out, and Merlin, remember there's a scaffold with all these guys are using to get on the castle.
Yes.
And Merlin ties up some horses to the bottom of the scaffold, and then he goes up to the horses' ears, whispers something in their ears that causes them to run off and pull the scaffolding down. Thought that was funny.
What did he say to them, Victor?
I don't know. Yeah, and then third act, Merlin, he's been frozen, remember, by Morgana.
Yeah.
So he can't really do much.
Yeah.
But he kind of he gets released by King Arthur. He's like, oh, your love for me has released me. And he kind of turns into Freddy Krueger because he's like sneaking around, or like a Force ghost from Star Wars. He's sneaking around. He's not real.
Yeah.
But he sneaks into Morgana's bed chamber and tells her to start reciting the chanting of making.
Yes.
Which, of course, causes her to form a mist and turn into her old self.
Oh, yeah.
And how funny is it when Mordred comes in, he just like punches her in the face and then strangles her?
I feel like he's been wanting to do that his whole life. And he's like, finally, she's ugly and frail. Nothing can be done about this. I'm going to kill her.
But he's not like, who is this woman? He doesn't even stop to ask. He's just like, boom.
He knew. Oh, he knew. He knew it was her.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
And who is Mordred if not a young Donald Trump?
Ooh, yikes. Or Donald Trump Jr. I don't know if we want to get political.
And then, at the end also, Lancelot turns into he's like a...
Yeah.
Kind of like a priest. He's almost like a Luddite. He's preaching against the knights and all the evil that they've brought into the world. And then, of course, a la Han Solo, the final battle, he shows back up with his mace swinging.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
when Lancelot shows back up as like this badass kind of like dude, just he comes in swinging and just destroys everything and remembers his past. I feel like we should have separated this out into like 3 movies.
Yeah,
and I feel like the emotional weight of that would have really kind of like, I would have been streaming tears like, yes, Lancelot is back. That kind of a moment. And it wasn't quite that, but I was excited to see him again come, return at the end of the third act, and
Yeah, that's a highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of foggy too. He comes out of the fog and like, oh shit, it's Lancelot.
And he dies from his old wound. It's the old wound.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the scene with him and Arthur fighting at the beginning where he's like, you must let me pass. This is the king's road.
Yeah.
Let me pass. And he's like, you must defeat me in combat. Of course, that reminded me of Holy Grail again, but but then he uses Excalibur to knock him out.
Yeah.
And he breaks that which could not be broken.
Right. Exactly. And, by the magic of the Lady of the Lake, Merlin's like, quickly, take it. Quickly.
Right.
I mean, is she going to just dip back down into the water? I don't know the legend.
Right.
I don't know if there's a reason why he needs to grab it quickly, but I'm like, he's good. I think he's got it.
I think she would have just disappeared again. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it's a fickle lady.
Right.
Yeah.
But then what about like when I was a kid watching this? It was creepy. It was scary and creepy, especially the tale of Sir Percival.
Yes.
When he's on his quest for the Grail and
yes.
he gets the Mordred. That was creepy. The little kid, the young Mordred. He's
yeah.
like,
yeah, the little golden knight. Yeah.
And then he leads him to that, takes him to that tree where they hang him on the tree with all the hanging knights.
Ooh, yeah.
That was so creepy to me when I was a kid when I saw that.
The crow picks the one
his
dead body's eyeball out.
Yeah. Classic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like they stuffed like hamburger meat in the chest or the eyeball or whatever.
Well, I read that was actually like a cow's eyeball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they had to wait forever. That cameraman was sitting there forever waiting for the crow to pick it out.
Oh, man.
Took a long time.
It was worth it.
Or I like the scene where Arthur goes back to visit Guinevere. She's a nun now.
Yeah.
And she brings out Excalibur. Like, he hasn't been wondering, where'd I put my sword? Where's Excalibur? She's been holding on to it all this time.
Yeah, but not their love.
Right. And I like the part where he sees the lovers. Remember, he's going to kill them, Lancelot and Guinevere.
Yes.
But instead, he just puts Excalibur in between them.
Yeah. And basically,
symbolism.
Like, don't come back or I'll chop more than just this blade of grass off.
Right. So, yeah, Excalibur. It's one of my favorites when I was a kid. Growing up, it was creepy and scary and kind of weird at the time. But, it was like, oh, I want to be a knight. I want to be a knight of the round table. I want to do good deeds and things like that.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing it. It was a gorgeous film. And for that, I will probably return. But other than that, probably not.
No. I like to revisit it from time to time.
Yeah.
It's a bit long, a bit episodic, but I still like it.
Nice.
And that was Excalibur. All right, that wraps it up for episode 3. Thanks for listening.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Join us next time for our Halloween-themed episode.
Yes, where we will talk about cabaret witches and Pittsburgh zombies.
Scary. Well, that does it for another episode of Film Loop. Thanks for joining us. If you like what you heard, leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps us out a lot. For references and links mentioned in this episode, visit us online at FilmLoopShow.com. Don't forget to share your thoughts and comments and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FilmLoopShow. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for listening. See you next time on Film Loop. I can't make the shot.